The alien Colosseum shook with laughter and roaring voices. Bright lights shone down on the fighting pit, where blood already stained the sand. Thousands of alien eyes stared at the broken human kneeling in the dust. His body was covered in wounds. His ribs ached, his muscles trembled, but he was still alive. The alien lord, dressed in shining black armor with golden marks of power, stood tall on his throne above the arena. His voice was deep and cruel, shaking the walls as he mocked the man below. Pathetic creature, the Lord said, his sharp teeth flashing as he smiled. Your species should have stayed crawling in the dirt of your small planet. And yet, here you are, thinking you can fight us. The crowd howled with laughter. Alien warriors pounded their weapons against the floor. They enjoyed watching the human suffer. The human lifted his head. His face was bruised, his lip bleeding, but his eyes still burned with fire. He said nothing. He only stared up at the alien. Lord, as if daring him to speak again, the Lord leaned back in his throne and chuckled. His wife sat quietly beside him, her silver hair flowing down her shoulders. She was beautiful, with pale blue skin and eyes that glowed like starlight. She did not laugh. She did not mock. She only watched the human with a strange, unreadable expression. The alien lord noticed her silence. He smirked, then raised his voice for the whole arena. Let us make this more interesting, he announced. His words silenced the crowd. If this human survives until the end, if he can somehow defeat my chosen champions, I will give him something no man deserves. He turned his head slowly, his cruel smile widening. His clawed hand reached toward his wife. She stiffened but did not resist as he pulled her closer. My wife, the alien lord said, loud enough for all to hear. I wager her as the prize. The Colosseum exploded with shock and laughter. Warriors shouted, gamblers began throwing coins into the air, and the sound of excitement rolled like thunder. The wife's eyes widened in anger and shame. She turned sharply toward her husband, but his grip on her arm tightened like iron. She could not speak. Down in the pit, the human finally moved. His chest rose and fell as he forced himself to stand, one leg shaking beneath him. His voice was hoarse, almost broken, yet every alien heard him clearly. You laugh, but you will not laugh forever. The words froze the arena for a moment. The Lord's grin faltered before he threw back his head and laughed again, louder than before. Such bravery. He shouted mockingly, You can barely stand, human. You bleed like a dying animal, and still you speak big words. Good. That is the spirit of a true fight. Let us see how long you last. The crowd screamed with delight. The gate on the far side of the arena began to rise, chains rattling, dust falling as the metal lifted. From the darkness came the growl of something. Massive. The human clenched his fists, his eyes narrowing. He did not look at the beast that stepped forward. He looked only at the alien lord, and then just for a moment, at the lord's wife. Her eyes met his, and something passed between them. She did not speak, but her lips parted slightly as if she wanted to. The faintest flicker of hope, or maybe fear, crossed her face. The beast entered the arena, its body armored with natural plates, its teeth long and dripping with saliva. The crowd cheered louder than ever. The alien lord rose from his throne, raising both arms. His voice boomed. Fight, human. Fight for your worthless life. And fight for my wife, who will never belong to you. The words cut like knives, but the human did not flinch. He rolled his shoulders, straightened his back, and prepared himself. His body screamed with pain. His vision blurred from blood loss, but his will was iron. The beast charged. Dust rose like a storm. The human took a step forward instead of back. His fists clenched tighter. His broken lips curved into a faint, defiant smile. And in that single heartbeat, as the monster's shadow fell over him, the alien lord laughed so loudly the arena shook. But the laughter of a tyrant was nothing compared to the silence of the human's eyes that promised this story was far from over. The arena roared as the beast charged. Dust and sand whipped into the human's face, but he did not close his eyes. His vision blurred, yet he saw enough. The creature's claws gleamed like blades, its armored body built for killing. The human's body screamed for rest. His broken ribs stabbed him with every breath, and his legs shook under his own weight. The crowd believed he would collapse before the monster even reached him. Many aliens shouted, already betting on how quickly he would die. The alien lord leaned forward, eyes shining with cruel excitement. He wanted to see blood. He wanted to see the human torn apart, but the human did not step back. He did the opposite. When the beast swung its claws, the human twisted to the side. Pain stabbed his chest, but he ignored it. The claw tore past his arm, missing by a hair. The crowd gasped. Again the beast struck, this time with its jaws. The human stumbled, his foot sliding in the sand, but at the last moment, he pushed himself low, rolling beneath the monster's snapping teeth. The movement cost him his wounds reopened, blood dripping fresh, but he lived. The alien lord's laughter filled the Colosseum. "Run, little human! Run until your legs snap!" The crowd cheered again, yet some voices were quieter now. They had seen the human move, not with the power of a beast, but with the mind of a survivor. The wife of the alien lord leaned forward slightly, her glowing eyes fixed on the arena. Her lips pressed together. She had seen many battles, many warriors, but this human was different. He was not the strongest. He was not the fastest. But he refused to fall. The beast turned again, its armored tail whipping through the air. It slammed into the ground with a crash, sending a shockwave across the sand. The human staggered, coughing blood, but forced himself upright. He whispered to himself, a sound no alien could hear. "Not yet. I'm not finished." The beast lunged again. The human had no weapon, no shield. He only had instinct. He waited until the last second, then dropped flat on the ground. The beast overshot, crashing headfirst into the Colosseum wall. The entire structure shook, dust raining from above. The crowd shouted in shock. For the first time, the alien lord's grin slipped. The human pushed himself to his knees, chest heaving, vision spinning. He should have been dead. Any normal man would have given up, but his eyes still burned with defiance. The alien lord stood, furious. "End him," he bellowed, as if his champion could hear. "Crush the insect." The beast turned again, anger blazing in its black eyes. It charged, faster this time. The human was ready. He stumbled aside, barely escaping, and drove his elbow into a soft spot beneath the beast's armor. The strike was weak, but the pain it caused made the monster scream. The arena went silent for a heartbeat. The wife's eyes widened. She whispered, though no one heard. He found its weakness. The beast roared and swung wildly, but now the human understood. He was not stronger, he was not faster, but he was clever. He could see what the aliens had missed. Every weakness, every blind spot. The fight raged on. Each time the beast struck, the human barely avoided death. Each time he stumbled, he found the will to rise again. His body was broken, but his spirit was iron. The crowd's laughter began to fade. Murmurs spread instead. How is he still alive? Why doesn't he fall? The alien lord's fists clenched. Rage burned in his eyes as he stared at the human below. The human, blood dripping down his face, raised his head and looked straight at the throne. His lips curled into a faint smile, even as his knees shook. "I am not finished yet," he whispered again. The wife caught his words this time. She leaned back slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. For the first time in years, she felt fear not of her husband, but of what this human might become. The beast charged one last time, desperate to kill. The human's body gave everything it had. He twisted, rolled, and drove his entire weight into that same weak spot under its armor. The monster shrieked, collapsing to the ground, its body trembling. Dust and silence filled the air. The crowd was frozen, and in the middle of the Colosseum, the human stood tall, bleeding, shaking, but alive. The alien lord's laughter was gone. His eyes burned with fury as the crowd began to chant, not his name, but something else. Human, human. The wife looked down, her glowing eyes locking with the human's once more. She did not smile. She did not speak. But in her heart, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. The beast's body lay twitching on the ground, its armored chest rising and falling in its final breaths. The Colosseum was silent for a heartbeat, every alien in shock. No human was supposed to survive this long. No human was supposed to stand over one of the Lord's champions. Then the alien lord's voice broke the silence. Ha! His laughter rolled across the arena like thunder. You think this is victory? You think this is power? Do not make me laugh harder, human. The crowd roared with him, but their voices were uneven now. Some laughed, some whispered. Many could not look away from the human, bloody, shaking. But standing tall with fire still burning in his eyes, the Lord leaned over the edge of his throne, his teeth bared in a cruel smile. His booming voice filled every corner of the arena. You crawled in the dirt like a worm, and by accident you found a weak spot in my beast. That is not strength, it is luck. Do you really believe luck will save you again? The human said. Nothing. His chest rose and fell with ragged breaths, his body trembling. But his eyes never looked away from the alien lord. That silence made the laughter sting deeper. The Lord's face twisted with fury, but still he laughed, louder and louder, as if trying to drown his own fear. Beside him, his wife sat still, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She did not laugh. Her glowing eyes locked onto the human below. His silence, his defiance, struck her harder than any words could. The alien lord noticed her stare. His laughter stopped suddenly. He leaned toward her and hissed low enough for only her to hear. Do not dare, he whispered, his claw tightening around the armrest. Do not dare admire that worm. But when he leaned back and raised his voice again, his laughter returned, wild, mocking, cruel. Bring the next, he commanded. The heavy gates groaned open once more. From the shadows stepped two warriors, alien soldiers bred for war. Their armor gleamed with crimson light, and their blades hummed with deadly energy. The crowd cheered, their voices returning with bloodlust. Kill him! Kill the human! The Lord's laughter echoed with theirs. Yes, yes. Let him dance until his bones shatter. Let him bleed until he forgets his own name. The human turned his head slowly, his vision blurry, his body screaming in pain. He saw the twin warriors approach, blades ready. His knees threatened to collapse, but he forced himself to stand straight. His mind whispered that he could not win. His body begged him to fall. But his will burned stronger than ever. He whispered under his breath, words only he could hear. If I fall, I fall fighting. The wife leaned forward slightly, hearing just enough of his voice to make her heart stir. Something about those words struck her deeply. The twin warriors circled him. One struck fast, his blade flashing. The human barely moved in time, stumbling back as the blade cut a shallow line across his arm. Pain flared, but he did not scream. He tightened his fists and watched carefully. The second warrior attacked from the other side, but the human ducked. Low, the blade singing just above his head. He rolled in the sand, rising with blood dripping from his wounds. The alien lord threw back his head, laughing so hard the throne itself seemed to shake. Look at him. A toy, a broken toy dancing. Before death. The human raised his head, his voice hoarse but clear enough to cut through the arena. I am not your toy. The laughter stumbled. For a moment, the Lord's grin faltered. The crowd fell quieter. The twin warriors snarled and attacked again. This time the human moved differently. He remembered how the beast had fallen not from strength, but from patience. He could not overpower them, but he could endure. He could wait. He dodged. He stumbled. He bled. Yet every strike made the warriors angrier, less careful. Every cut pushed the human closer to death, but also closer to finding a weakness. Wife's fingers curled around her seat. She could see it, the rhythm, the way he refused to collapse. It was not luck. It was something else, something stronger. The alien lord's laughter grew harsher, desperate, as if each sound was meant to cover the truth he did not want to see. Finally, in the chaos of blades, the human struck back. Not with power, but with precision. His fist slammed into the joint of one warrior's armor, breaking the flow of movement. The blade dropped, clattering against the sand. The crowd gasped. The alien lord stopped laughing. The second warrior lunged, but the human twisted, shoving the first into the second. Both fell, tangled for a breath. The human stumbled back, chest heaving, blood soaking his clothes. He could barely stand, but he had survived again. Silence rippled through the crowd. The human lifted his head, his bloodied lips curling faintly. His eyes locked with the alien lord's. "You laugh," he whispered, though his voice carried across the arena. "Because you are afraid." The Colosseum froze. The alien lord's face darkened, his laughter gone. For the first time, his smile vanished completely, and his wife, silent all this time, let out the faintest sound, half gasp, half breath. It was the sound of a woman who had just seen the first crack in her husband's throne. The two alien warriors staggered back, shocked that a bleeding human had forced them to the ground. Their crimson armor clashed as they scrambled to rise. Again, but for a breath, the arena was silent. Every eye was fixed on the human. He stood hunched, blood dripping from his arm, his chest heaving like a furnace. His body looked ready to collapse, yet his eyes burned as if he had already won. The alien lord gripped the armrest of his throne so hard the metal cracked beneath his claws. His laughter had stopped, and that silence was louder than any roar. "Fight harder!" He shouted down at his warriors, his voice carrying the sharp edge of panic. "End this insect before he shamas us further." The warriors obeyed, rushing forward with blades flashing in arcs of red light. The human braced himself, every muscle screaming in pain. He could not match their speed. He could not match their strength. But he had something they did not: patience. He waited, slipping just beyond each strike, forcing them to chase. Every dodge cost him blood, every stumble left him weaker, but he endured. He made them swing again and again, their attacks growing sloppy, their breathing heavier. The crowd began to notice. At first, they had shouted for blood, cheering for the warriors. But now, whispers rippled through the Colosseum. "He's still alive. He makes them miss. He sees their weakness." The human staggered back, his feet sliding through sand soaked in his own blood. One warrior swung high too high. The human ducked and drove his elbow into the same joint he had struck before. The armor cracked with a sharp snap. The warrior howled, his weapon slipping from his grip. The crowd erupted, not in laughter this time, but in shock. The second warrior charged with fury, but the human sidestepped, shoving the first warrior into his path. The two crashed together, blades clattering against each other's armor. The human stumbled away, barely able to breathe, yet still on his feet. The wife of the alien lord leaned forward, her glowing eyes wide. Her heart beat fast in her chest. For the first time she saw the truth clearly. The human was not winning by chance. He was shaping the fight. Slowly, painfully, but with purpose. The alien lord slammed his fist against the armrest, his voice shaking the air. "Do not falter. Kill him now." But the more he shouted, the more the crowd murmured. Their eyes flicked between the human and their furious lord. A seed of doubt had been planted. The warriors came at the human together now, desperate to finish the battle. Their blades slashed, cutting his side, grazing his shoulder. Blood poured, but his feet kept moving, his eyes sharp. Watching, he saw the tiny rhythm in their attacks, the moment when one always left the other exposed. It was all he needed. Waited for the strike, let it come, and then he moved. His fist slammed into the exposed gap of the first warrior's chest plate. The alien gasped, choking, as his legs buckled. The human turned with the last of his strength and drove the staggering warrior into the second. Both collapsed in a crash of armor and dust. The arena went silent again. The human swayed, nearly falling to his knees. His vision blurred, and every breath tasted like iron, but he forced himself upright. He looked up at the throne, at the alien lord, and raised his bloody fist. The crowd could no longer hold their silence. The chant began softly at first, then louder, rolling like thunder. Human, human. The alien lord's face twisted with rage. His claws tore into the armrest. Silence! He bellowed, but the chant only grew louder, drowning his voice. The wife's chest rose and fell quickly. She could feel the tide turning. The human was no longer just fighting for his own survival. He was fighting for the eyes of everyone watching. The alien lord stood suddenly, his cape whipping behind him. His voice roared above the chants. "You think this is your turning point?" he thundered, pointing a claw down at the bleeding man. "Then let me show you the true meaning of despair." He raised his hand, and the gates at the far side of the arena began to open again. Chains clanked, dust shook from the ceiling, and a new, darker shadow stepped forward. The crowd gasped as the creature's roar shook the Colosseum walls. The human, swaying on his feet, clenched his fists once more. His eyes narrowed not at the fine beast, but at the alien Lord Dot. This was no longer just a fight. This was war. The roar of the new beast still echoed in the Colosseum, but the crowd's eyes were not on the monster. They were on the human Dot. He stood half-bent, blood soaking his clothes, his breathing harsh. Every step seemed to drag him closer to collapse. Yet when he raised his head, his gaze was steady, sharp, alive. He was not broken. Not yet. The alien lord rose from his throne, spreading his arms as if he commanded the entire world. His voice thundered across the arena. "Behold, this is the end. No worm can stand against this creature. Let his bones feed the sand." The crowd roared with him, but the roar was uneven, weaker than before. Many still remembered the human's defiance. Some even whispered his name, their voices trembling, uncertain but undeniable. The alien lord's wife sat motionless beside him, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her glowing eyes never left the human. She should have looked away. She should have sat proud, loyal to her husband. But she could not. Every time the human staggered but refused to fall, something twisted inside her chest. Every time he looked at her husband with those fearless eyes, she felt the weight of chains around her own heart. She remembered the moment her husband wagered her like a coin. In front of thousands, he had turned her life, her dignity, into a prize for entertainment. Rage still burned inside her, but so did something else. Something dangerous. The beast roared again, shaking the walls. Its body was massive, its eyes burning red, its fangs dripping venom. The crowd leaned forward in hunger for blood. The human turned toward it slowly. His chest rose and fell. His body trembled. But his eyes still burned. The alien lord laughed again, cruel and sharp. He leaned close to his wife, his claws tightening on the armrest. "Watch closely," he whispered. "Watch this human be torn apart. And then remember, you were almost given to a corpse." She said nothing. Her lips pressed into a thin line. But her heart beat faster, not with fear of her husband, but with something far more dangerous. "Hope," the human whispered under his breath. words lost in the roar of the arena. But somehow the wife read his lips. I fight until the end. Her chest tightened. Her glowing eyes softened for just a moment. She had seen thousands of warriors. None had ever spoken without speaking. None had carried such will in silence. The beast lunged. The human threw himself aside, barely escaping the snapping jaws. The sand shook beneath its weight. The crowd cheered wildly, but again, many eyes were on him, not the monster. He stumbled, clutching his side, blood pouring through his fingers. The crowd gasped, sure he would fall. But then he looked up, his teeth clenched, his eyes burning, brighter than ever. And he stood again. The chant returned, soft at first. Who, man? Who, man? The alien lord slammed his fist into the armrest, fury blazing in his eyes. Silence, he roared. Do not cheer for a worm. But the chant grew louder. Who, man? Who, man? The wife's lips parted slightly. She did not join them, but her heart did. Her eyes followed his every step as he faced the beast again. The fight raged, brutal and merciless. The human was thrown against the wall, dragged across the sand, torn by claws. Blood spilled, but still he rose. Again and again, each time the wife's breath caught in her throat. Each time, she felt the weight of her husband's wager press in heavier on her. She was not blind. She knew what this meant. If the human won, if he truly survived, her life would no longer belong to the alien lord. By her husband's own vow, she would belong to the human. And yet, when her glowing eyes met his across the arena, she did not feel fear. She felt something else. The alien lord noticed her gaze. His claws dug into the throne. He leaned close again, his voice sharp as a blade. You dare, he hissed. You dare look at him as if he is more than dirt? Her lips trembled. She did not answer. But she did not look away either. Down below, the human faced the beast one final time. His body was shaking, barely able to move. But his fists clenched, his jaw tightened, and his eyes locked not on the monster, but on the throne above, on the alien lord. And, for the briefest heartbeat, on the wife. The beast lunged. The human struck with the last of his strength, driving his hand into the creature's throat. It roared, staggered, and crashed into the sand with a thunderous boom. The arena went silent. The human swayed, blood dripping, every breath a struggle. But he was alive. He had won again. The chant erupted louder than ever, shaking the Colosseum walls. You man, who man? The alien lord stood, his face twisted with fury. His laughter was gone. His power cracked like broken stone. And his wife stared down at the human, her glowing eyes wide, her chest rising and falling quickly. For the first time, she let herself feel the truth. Not pity. Not fear. Desire. Asterisk. The Colosseum shook with chants of who man? Who man? The alien lord stood trembling with rage, his claws carving deep lines into the throne's armrest. His soldiers avoided his gaze, afraid of the fury in his eyes. For the first time, his laughter had been silenced. The human stood in the pit, covered in blood and dust, his body bent like a broken spear. Yet he was alive. Alive after the beast, alive after the warriors. Alive when he should have been nothing but bones. The alien lord raised his hand, his booming voice drowning the chants. Enough. The arena fell into tense silence. Thousands of alien eyes turned toward their lord. His chest heaved, his teeth bared in fury. This farce ends now, he snarled. You will not crawl into another victory, human. You will not take what is mine. His wife stiffened at those words. Her glowing eyes flicked toward him, then back down to the pit. Her heart pounded, torn between fear and something she could no longer hide. The Lord raised his claw toward the gates. Bring him! He roared, The largest gate began to grind open, chains clattering as dust poured from above. Heavy footsteps shook the ground even before the figure stepped out. The crowd gasped. It was no beast this time. No mindless monster. It was the Lord's champion, an alien warlord taller than any man. His armor black as night, his weapon a blade that glowed with burning energy. This was not a fight for sport. This was execution. The human swayed on his feet, every breath ragged. His body begged him to fall, but when he saw the champion, his eyes hardened. His fists clenched. He would not kneel. The wife's fingers dug into her lap. Her lips parted, and for the first time she whispered aloud, though only to herself, "Please, don't die." The alien lord turned sharply, hearing her faint words. His eyes narrowed, his voice was ice. "You beg for him?" She froze, her blood cold. But she did not deny it. The Lord's rage erupted. He slammed his fist against the throne and shouted down at the pit, "If you survive this, human, then you win not just a prize, you win my wife. And I will watch her walk to you while I choke on my own laughter." The crowd roared with shock. The wife's eyes widened, her breath stolen from her chest. She turned toward him, fury in her voice. "You cannot. Silence." The Lord thundered, his claw raised toward her, but the human's voice cut through, weak yet sharp as steel. "I don't want what you give. I take what I earn." The Colosseum shook with gasps. The wife's lips trembled, and for the first time in her life, she felt chains cracking inside her chest. The champion stepped forward, his blade humming. He towered over the human, looking down with eyes full of contempt. "You will not last." "A breath," he growled. The human spat blood into the sand and whispered, "Try me." The duel began. The champion swung with terrifying speed, his blade cutting arcs of red light. The human barely dodged, stumbling aside as the sand erupted where the blade struck. The shockwave nearly threw him down, but he stayed on his feet. Crowd roared, half cheering for the champion, half chanting for the human. The arena shook with their voices. The wife leaned forward, her glowing eyes wide, her heart racing with every swing, every dodge, every ragged breath. She wanted to look away, but she could not. The champion attacked again and again, his blade carving the air, forcing the human back. Blood flew from new wounds. The human's legs buckled, but his eyes never left the champion's. And then, in a blur, the human struck. Not strong, not heavy, but precise. He slammed his fist against the champion's wrist, just as the blade swung down. The weapon jerked, carving into the sand instead of his body. The crowd gasped. The human stumbled away, chest heaving, blood soaking him. The champion growled, fury burning in his voice. "Insect, I will crush you." The alien lord leaned forward, desperate to see the human broken. "Finish him. Tear him apart." But the wife whispered again, this time louder, her voice trembling but fierce. "Win. Please." The human's eyes flicked upward, just for a breath, toward the throne, toward her. He saw the fear. He saw the hope. And in that moment, his broken body found one last spark of strength. The champion roared, lifting his blade for the killing strike. The human clenched his fists, his teeth bared. The Colosseum held its breath. And then they collided. Dust exploded. The crowd screamed. The sound of steel and flesh echoed through the arena. When the dust settled, only one figure was still standing. The dust hung in the air, thick and heavy. The crowd leaned forward in silence, every eye straining to see who had fallen. And then through the swirling sand, a figure appeared. The champion lay on his knees, his black armor cracked, his blade buried uselessly in the dirt. Blood ran down his mouth, his breathing shallow. Before him stood the human, barely alive, covered in blood, one hand pressed to his chest to stop the bleeding, but still standing. His other hand clutched the hilt of the champion's broken blade. Its edge jagged, its glow fading. The arena erupted. "Achoo, man!" Who man? Who man? The chants thundered like a storm, rolling across the Colosseum walls. Thousands of alien voices, once laughing at his suffering, now screamed his name with awe and fear. The alien lord froze on his throne. His eyes were wide, his chest heaving as if the air itself betrayed him. For the first time, the unshakable ruler looked small. "No," he growled. His claws scraped the metal of the throne. "No, this is impossible." The human turned slowly, his eyes locking onto the Lord. His voice was broken, hoarse, but it carried across the arena as if the air itself obeyed him. "You wagered her life." His words cut like knives, "and now I have won." The alien lord's fury exploded. He leapt to his feet, his voice booming with desperation. "No, she is mine. She will always be mine." But the crowd no longer cheered for him. Their chants only grew louder, drowning his voice. "Who man? Who man?" The wife rose slowly from her seat. Her glowing eyes were fixed on the human, not her husband. Her body trembled, her chest rising and falling fast. She had been silent for too long, but now the truth could not be chained. She stepped forward, her voice strong, echoing through the Colosseum. "He won me by your vow," she said. "But I go to him by my choice." The crowd roared louder than ever, shaking the walls. The alien lord's face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You dare defy me? Before all?" The wife did not flinch. She descended the steps slowly, each one echoing like thunder. Her silver hair shimmered under the lights. Her glowing eyes locked onto the man standing bloodied in the pit. The alien lord roared, drawing his weapon, his body trembling with fury. "Then both of you will die," the crowd gasped. Soldiers hesitated, unsure whether to obey their lord or the tide of voices rising around them. The human raised the broken blade, his body shaking but his stance firm. His voice was steady. "Come then, you laughed at my pain, laugh at my victory." The alien lord leapt into the pit, his weapon glowing with fury. The human, barely able to stand, lifted his blade. The wife stopped halfway down the steps, her hands trembling. Her heart split between fear and belief. The two clashed. The Lord's strength was overwhelming, each strike slamming the human back. Sparks flew as steel met steel, dust rising with every blow. The human stumbled, his body ready to give out, but the crowd's chant carried him. "Who man? Who man?" Every voice fed his will. Every cheer gave him one more step, one more breath, one more strike. At last, the alien lord swung high, roaring with rage. The human twisted, driving the broken blade deep into the lord's chest. Silence fell. The alien lord staggered, his eyes wide in disbelief. He looked down at the blade piercing his heart, then up at the human who held it. And then he fell. The arena shook as his body struck the sand. Dust rose, blood spread, and the once mighty lord lay still. The silence lasted only a heartbeat. Then the Colosseum erupted with a sound greater than any before. "Who man? Who man?" The wife stepped into the pit, her steps slow but steady. She stopped before the human, her glowing eyes filled with something no one had ever seen in her before: freedom. The human swayed, barely able to stand. She reached out, her hands gentle as they touched his face. "You should not even be alive," she whispered. "And yet, you are." His lips curved faintly, his voice rough but steady. "I told you. I don't crawl. I rise," the crowd roared. Again, the chant shaking the walls of the Colosseum. And as the alien lord's body grew cold, the wife pressed her forehead against the human's, closing her eyes. She was no longer a prize, no longer a wager. She was his by choice, by will, by victory.